Welcome to the Sermon in the Valley with Pastor Rob Eller. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. If you like what you hear in this podcast, please subscribe to it and share it with your friends and family. Thank you. Welcome back to the Sermon in the Valley. Pastor Rob Eller here with your weekly sermon episode, with the reading of my sermon from Sunday, July 19th, the 8th Sunday after Pentecost. Let's get started. The Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 13th chapter. Jesus put before the crowds another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, "Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from?" He answered, "An enemy has done this." The slave said to him, "Then do you want us to go and gather them?" But he replied, "No, for in gathering the weeds you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. And at harvest time I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first, and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn." Then Jesus left the crowds and went into the house, and his disciples approached him saying, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field." He answered, "The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so will it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all evildoers, and they will throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Let anyone with ears listen." The Gospel of the Lord. In the past, I have made my utter disdain for dandelions very, very clear. I dislike them. A lot. Those deep taproots that make them nearly impossible to get out of the ground. You dig, and just when you think you've got the whole root out, it snaps. Half of it is still down there, practically laughing at you. And even when you do get them, root and all, more show up. Somewhere else in the yard. It's like playing landscape whack-a-mole. It's a never-ending battle. But here's the thing about dandelions. They're easy. They're yellow and obvious. They stick up from the grass, practically waving a little flag that says, "Here I am, come and get me." Not every weed does that, though. Some weeds don't stick up. They don't announce anything. They come in low, and they come in green, and they grow right alongside everything you planted. And for a while, for a good long while actually, you cannot tell which is which. I've pulled things out of my garden convinced they were weeds, only to realize later I yanked out something that was supposed to be there. And I've let things grow because I was sure they belonged, only to watch them take over a few weeks later. One example has a bit of irony to it for today's gospel reading. A couple months ago, we had some cornflowers pop up, and one patch I was certain was perhaps cornflowers or another type of wildflower, and it turned out to be wheat that had sprouted from seeds that dropped out of our bird feeder. Last week, our temptation was to hold back from throwing the seed to areas we didn't think were ready for it or were good for the seed to take root in. This week, the temptation is different. We've seen the seed sprout up, and now we want to start sorting out the weeds from the wheat, the good from the bad. But once again, we need to take a step back because our job isn't to sort. It's to tend what is already growing. This morning we have our second of two planting parables from Jesus. This one, the wheat and the weeds. It's a pretty basic parable on the surface. A farmer sowed good seed in his fields, but later that night someone comes through and sows bad seed among the good. All the seeds start growing together, and once the farmhands realize what is happening, it's too late to do anything. If they try to pull up the weeds, it would damage the wheat in the process. This is because these weeds aren't just any old weed. What we have is bearded darnel, sometimes referred to as tares or false wheat. The reason it's called false wheat is because right up until the time it's harvested, it looks just like real wheat. Same shape, color, and height, growing side by side. You could walk that field every day for weeks and see only a healthy crop, not knowing the difference. What we can't see is where the problem lies. It's underground. The roots of tares will wrap around the roots of the surrounding wheat, tangled in and robbing them of water and nutrients needed to grow. The damage isn't happening where we can see it. The worst part of this weed, however, is the seeds. Tares aren't just useless, they're dangerous. When left with the harvested wheat and ground into the same flour, it can make people sick. It doesn't come as a surprise that Roman law at the time prohibited the sowing of tares among the wheat of an enemy. Given those issues, it seems pretty obvious what you should do. Get rid of the weeds, now, before they do any more damage. They're nothing but trouble, and every day they're left in the ground is another day they're stealing water and nutrients from the real wheat. The farmhands run to the master with what sounds like a reasonable suggestion. Do you want us to go into the fields to pull up the weeds? They're offering to go into the field, right now, while they can still see the weeds and pull them up one by one. It's not a lazy suggestion. It's diligent and decisive. It's what anyone would want from a hired hand who takes their work seriously. If anything, it's a little overzealous, but overzealous in the direction of protecting the crop. What farmer wouldn't want workers like that? And still the master gives a surprising response to the farmhands. No, leave the weeds be. Here's what those farmhands didn't account for. They are pulled up now, it would have pulled the wheat up with them because of how tangled the roots become. Try to fix it now, you don't end up with a smaller crop, you end up with no crop. Also, it's so early in the growing season that it is hard to distinguish which was wheat and which was tares. Their zeal wasn't wrong about the danger, just about the timing. Instead, the reapers would sort out the weeds at the harvest and deal with them at that time. The wheat would be sorted from the weeds, and the weeds being bundled and burned, and the wheat gathered safely into the barn. Two very different endings for two plants that right up until that moment have been growing side by side, indistinguishable in the very same field. The sorting the farmhands wanted to do today, with their own hands, by their own judgment, does happen. Just not by them, and not right now. It happens at the harvest, by the reapers, when what was hidden underground will finally and unmistakably be revealed. That's the weight the master was asking for. Not a denial of which plants were wheat and which were weeds, just a refusal to let anyone but the reapers decide which is which. You would think the disciples would understand this, but just like with the last parable, they don't quite get it. They don't know who is the wheat and who is the weeds. So Jesus has to break it down even further. He explains that the field is the world, the good seeds are the children of the kingdom planted by him, the bad seeds are the children of the evil one planted by the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, or the reapers, or angels will separate us from, and we will be judged. The bad cannot be separated from the good yet, because to do so would risk harming the good. I imagine the disciples were confused by why evil would be allowed to remain in the world. And I imagine we find ourselves just as confused and ask God why. This parable points to the reason for it. It's not like God can just metaphorically coat the earth and weed be gone, because not only will the evil weeds be destroyed, but so will a bunch of the good wheat. If you've used any type of weed killer before, you know that the package warns you against spraying plants and grass because it's indiscriminate on what it will kill. I've made that unfortunate mistake before in the past in my own yard. Now, it's easy to fall into the trap that this parable presents a clear binary. Wheat is good and weeds are bad. It's just as easy to fall into the trap that it becomes our duty to separate the weeds from the wheat. As Jesus pointed out in the parable, that's not our responsibility. And it's not as clear and easy as it sounds to separate the two. We can't always see the difference between the wheat and the weeds. The farmhands weren't wrong that the tares were a real problem. Jesus doesn't pretend that the weeds aren't actually weeds. The farmhands got wrong was believing that they were the ones who had the power to end the story based on what they could see growing in front of them. That's the true failure. It's not that they noticed the weeds, but that they claim the authority to do something about it. Here's why this is important. We have this tendency, as people, as the church, as society, to think that we're experts at sorting out the good from the bad. We do it to each other. We look at what's growing next to us and make our quiet determinations. That one's wheat, that one's weeds. That one doesn't really belong here. That one's faith doesn't look like the faith we were taught to expect. We do it to whole categories of people we've never even met. We do it to institutions. We do it to entire movements, entire generations, entire sides of an argument. Decided, filed, sorted, before anything has had the chance to actually bear out. And here's what makes this even more difficult for us, even more necessary for us to hear. Each one of us is not entirely wheat. We are a mix of wheat and weeds. This may sound radical, it may make us uneasy, but that's the truth. Martin Luther had a way of putting this. We are simul justus et peccator, simultaneously saint and sinner. At the very same time, fully righteous and fully sinful. Not half of one and half the other, like we're 50% wheat and 50% weed. If we just try harder, we can tip the scale. Both, entirely, at once. With all that being said, I'm not going to close by saying we just need to love each other. That should go without saying. What we need to do is not judge each other based only on what we see. There's an old phrase that was said to me over and over growing up that applies here. Never judge a book by its cover. What we see is never the whole picture. What we only see is what's on the surface. It's what's under the surface, where the true character of a person lies, in their heart. And like us, they are wheat and weeds woven together. Our call isn't to untangle the mess and try to remove the weeds. Rather, our call is to tend to the wheat, help it grow and thrive. Some days it'll be harder than others. The tangled mess may be too much. The weeds may have some thorns. Or the wheat is hard to find. It doesn't mean we give up on that person. We continue to extend to them the same grace and love that God and others have extended to us. And in doing so, they go out and tend to others, continually increasing the size of the harvest. In my flower beds at home, there are still things growing that I can't identify yet. I could go out there today and start pulling based on a guess. Some of those guesses would be right. Some of them wouldn't. And I wouldn't know the difference until it was too late to put anything back in the ground. So I'm going to let it grow a little while longer. Not because I've stopped caring, but because I've finally admitted I can't tell yet. And that's not something for me to fix. So sit in the field a while longer. See the beauty of the growth around you. And leave the harvesting to the one who knows best. And all of God's people said, Amen. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like this sermon, if you like this podcast, please share it with your friends, your family, your neighbors, and yes, even your enemies. Spread the good news for everyone to hear. The Sermon in the Valley is a production of Gutenberg Media and is written and produced at the Patrick Stevens Broadcast Studio here in the heart of the Tuscarawas Valley. God's mercy, grace, peace, and love be with each and every single one of you. And as always, have a blessed day.